So Google has made a change to their platform that they only do once, maybe every 3 to 5 years, maybe even longer than that. In fact, in my history, I think they've made this change 4 times exactly. And that is, of course, if you haven't noticed, Google has now changed the way that ads are showing on the search results page in a big way. Previously, Google used to have all the ads labeled as ad at the very top of the page, so people could quite easily see that they were an ad. Now, I say quite easily see, but in reality, compared to where Google were many years ago, they used to have a big yellow box that had an ad and a sponsored results section so people could easily determine it. Then they created an ad label that was green, so again, users at a glance could easily see the difference. Then they moved to a monochrome, very small ad label that we've been used to for the last number of years. And again, that's another change that made ads a lot less visible to the user to make sure people really can't understand the difference between organic and paid. And now they've stepped up a gear. What they've done now is they've put at the very top of the listings the name of the listings as sponsored results, but all of the results underneath that section don't have the ads label that they had before or in previous generations. What this materially means is that paid results now look the same as organic results when you scroll through a page very quickly. When looking at that search results page, it's now going to be even harder for users to know the difference between paid and organic results. Another feature of this is, of course, you can toggle the closing and opening of those results as well. So a user could toggle the closing and opening or expanding and subtracting of the sponsored results as well, so users can close them and hide them away. Now, Google would argue that that is going to be better for user experience, because if somebody doesn't want to see ads, they can close them. But ultimately, you have to remember, Google only makes these changes when they probably predict they will increase their revenue. They wouldn't make changes like this for fun. They wouldn't do a bunch of UX research for fun. They would do it in order to improve their revenue. But of course, Google never actually just says, yeah, we did this because we think ad click-through rates will be higher and we'll make more money. This is what they actually said. Text ads on the search results page will now be grouped with a single sponsored results label. This new larger label stays visible as people scroll, making it clear which results are sponsored, upholding our industry-leading standards for ad label prominence, while also adding a new hide sponsored results control that allows you to collapse text ads with a single click if you want to focus on only organic results. In our testing, we found that the new design helps people navigate the top of the page more easily. The new design keeps the size of the ads the same, and you'll still never see more than 4 text ads in a grouping. So that's what Google says is the reason they made the change, for UX improvements for users. Because remember, even though we are advertisers and business people, we are in a situation where we are the minority. Most people hate ads on Google. They cannot stand them. Watch Lewis Rossman's channel. Watch any YouTuber who is about consumers as opposed to business, and you will see most people hate advertisers. And it's just a fact we have to deal with. But ultimately, I'm going to be honest with you. After Google made this change, normally when they make these ad changes, I can very easily spot, oh, they've done this. The label's gone green. Oh, they've done this. You know, it's quite easy to see. Whereas on this change, actually, for the first time ever, I was fooled. I was scrolling through a search result before I knew Google made this change, and from what I saw, I couldn't tell the difference because the organic results and the paid results now look the same. If you miss that title that says sponsored results at the top, which I'd imagine a lot of people will miss, then you don't really understand whether or not you're looking at organic or paid results. So interestingly, even though Google announced that they actually think this is going to be better for the consumer so they can determine which results are ads and which ones are organic, I think, again, going back to what I said Google loves to do, this will probably improve ad click-through rates, because I think at a glance, people will not realize they are looking at adverts. And if they scroll very quickly down to the results, which is what most users will do, they won't dwell at the very top of the page where it says sponsored results. They'll move to the thing they want to see. They want to see the answers or the results they need to get, and they'll skip past. So I think this results in a positive increase in click-through rate for advertisers. But let's see what happens over the next coming days and weeks. I will be looking at my campaigns to see if any changes happen to the CTRs. But let me know what you guys think. Do you think that this change was done by Google to improve user experience for consumers? Or like me, do you think this is something that's going to drive them more revenue and better ad click-through rates that hopefully we as advertisers benefit from? But I understand consumers obviously hate this change. The next story I want to give you guys today is about the opposite of getting better results, but something that could give you worse results. And that is that OpenAI's new browser could potentially behave like a human and interact with the search results page like a human would, resulting in clicks to ads that are not driven by humans. ChatGPT Atlas could potentially mimic human clicks when using this browser and ultimately lead to advertisers wasting spend on AI-based clicks. Because ChatGPT's Atlas browser will be based on Google Chrome, it means that Google's own systems can't distinguish the difference between a click from a AI-based session via this browser and the real user using a Chrome browser. So far, this is a very small problem, or not even a problem at all, because very few people are using ChatGPT's browser, and as the Atlas browser does roll out, I'd imagine the uptake won't be massive. It's very difficult to win the browser wars. In fact, there has been precisely 2 browser wars, and basically Microsoft lost the first one, then Firefox came along and lost that one, and Chrome is the winner. Chrome is basically the most used browser on PCs, and of course you have Safari as well. But of course, what I will say is, even though this browser's uptake won't be massive, and I can't imagine it being massive because changing browser behavior is a massive shift of users, changing the way they've done things for many years, it could still present a small problem for advertisers in the years coming. In fact, the founder of Search Atlas, Manik Barn, actually said that it may lead to Google developing new standards to determine the difference between AI clicks and human clicks as well. That is very interesting because Google Ads right now knows click fraud is taking place, but they haven't really put many measures in place to mitigate click fraud. They say they do. They say they have systems in place. They do refund very small amounts to users of Google Ads, but ultimately they don't do much about the issue of click fraud. Whereas now, because ChatGPT is launching this Atlas browser and it could potentially impact advertising at a larger scale, it may, in fact, lead to Google taking some action to determine the difference between human clicks and AI-driven clicks, with a bit more, I suppose, intuition and a bit more attention, because at the moment they're not really doing a huge amount to protect clicks now, but because they think this problem could be big on the horizon, maybe there might be a time where Google approaches this issue with a lot more integrity. One of the things mentioned in this article by Anu Adigbola, who wrote it, is that it's good for advertisers to keep an eye on how things are progressing in their campaigns, making sure that you're not seeing any kind of spikes in traffic or any changes in behavior as this browser rolls out. I'd imagine the impact right now is quite minimal, but it does make sense to keep an eye on how things are progressing. Let me know in the comments if you're seeing any strange patterns in your campaigns, but I'd imagine it's probably not having the impact that we think it is now, but in the future, who knows? And the final update I want to mention is Google has made changes to their AI systems within Google Ads to allow advertisers to create better text ad content using their AI systems. This new feature, known as text guidelines, will allow users to create basically prompts to allow Google to create the right assets for their business based on use cases, based on credentials, based on things they may have to say in text ads from a legal perspective to protect their brand. So you will see here on this screenshot from Search Engine Land that it also allows users to exclude terms. So if there's very specific terms they don't want to be used in ads, as an advertiser, you can basically ask Google not to use those terms when creating your text ads. And also there are messaging restrictions as well. So you can actually prompt in and say, please don't talk about our product in this way. Please use capitalization. So basically, this new feature is not necessarily something to create better ad content, but it will allow you to create better brand aligned content. So if brand alignment is something important, whether your brand uses capitalization, sentence casing, title casing, specifically can't mention cheap or quick or easy or things like that, you can basically protect your brand using this new functionality. It doesn't improve the quality of the ads Google puts out. As opposed to that, it basically protects your brand from things that you shouldn't be saying about it when using Google Ads automation and AI features. So this is a good feature. It allows people to protect their brand. So if you're doing any advertising and you want to make sure everything is brand aligned, you can bake this in. So if you're using automatically created assets, then you can basically make sure that Google doesn't create anything you don't want. Now, the wider problem I have with Google's AI in general is not the fact that it's using information that is something your brand shouldn't be using if it doesn't know, which was a problem that they've now resolved. The bigger issue is just the quality. The quality of the ads that Google writes when using their AI systems, it's just not good. It's really, really poor. So when you give it a sample set of keywords, when you give it your website URL, when it creates the headlines and descriptions, they're just a bit crap. They're not very good. So I think I get much better results using GPT with much more specific prompts by giving it a list of my USPs and benefits for my clients and writing the ads in that way using AI, using GPT with more specific prompts that are much more long form, that are much more detailed. that gives me better results than using Google's AI. And I think they've got a long way to go to improve the quality of the ad writing they're doing. But this step they've taken is good to protect the ads themselves and to protect the brands writing the ads. But I think the adoption of this feature is quite low anyway. For the people who are in a business big enough to care about brand guidelines to this degree, most people in businesses of this size will be writing their own ads anyway. So it's a bit of a balance. It's a good feature, quite useful, but I think there's still a long way to go when it comes to Google writing content using AI. And that's the stories for the week. Let me know in the comments which one you found most interesting, or if you have any concerns or questions, put them down below. I'll be more than happy to chat with you down in the comments. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Head over to darren-taylor.com if you need help with your Google Ads campaigns. And I'll see you guys on my next video.